That prompt before all right, recording is started. So we'll go over some program notices, just some things to talk about as we go into this new year. Then we'll hit some best practices and answer any questions that you all have. So today you have me, Cameron Walsh. I'm with Clear Result. I'm the Associate Program Manager. And then Thomas Adamson, program specialist. I think most of you know him. And then also Spencer Young, market outreach manager. I think everyone is very familiar with Spencer. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so program notices. Here are the topics we're going to cover. I'm going to talk about HB 2531. For those that were at the TA seminar at the end of January, beginning of February. It's going to be the same information, really the same slides, but bears repeating, and especially for those who weren't there. Can talk a little bit about LLCs, the new DLC list 5.1, a 90-day installation time frame, and then the incentives. Okay. So let's jump right into HB 2531. So this bill, really the goal is environmental. The state wants to reduce the amount of mercury and really get a handle on that. So that was passed in June 2023, and it's implemented in two phases. So the spirit and the letter of it is going to prohibit the sale or distribution of screw-in CFLs starting already, so January 1st, 2024, and then followed by the pin type CFLs, and probably most impactful, the linear fluorescence, starting January 1st of 2025. And so really, again, this is to cut down on the mercury in the environment, and in particular this year represents really good opportunities for TLEDs, which are available in Midstream. And we are Oregon, we're one of seven other states. This type of legislation will probably, we'll see more and more of it throughout the years. So implementation timeline. The products, as I went over, the screw-in CFLs have already begun. And really what that means for our incentive programs is Energy Trust will allow a 6-month compliance window. They work with the state on okaying this. So really, if you have sales before July 1st of 2024 for replacements for screw-in CFLs, those incentives can still be applied, even though the ban happens January 1st. And also very importantly, for the phase 2 of the linear fluorescence, uh, projects and sales can happen on those for those replacements until July 1st. So the ban goes in January, but as long as those sales happen before July 1st, 2025, we will allow incentives for that project. Okay, so that's really the high level, the long and short of it. Really, as far as Midstream is concerned, this is, we're probably going to see a lot of TLED projects, right? So we have there's more information, some more detail on the business lighting page. That's the Energy Trust site. Um, if you have any more questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer them or pass them along to someone with more information than I, and we'll get you an answer. Also, throughout the year, Insider will be updated with the most recent information on incentive program changes, and then also more HB 2531 impacts. Yeah, so I'll pass it over to Thomas.
All right, switching gears here. We wanted to talk briefly about our LLC controls measures on the Midstream offer. We've been using these for about a year now, and I know many of you have been taking advantage of them. Just wanted to remind everybody of the requirements here. To meet the definition of a NLC controls measure, the fixtures that you're selling need to be networked, have an occupancy sensor and an ambient light sensor installed for each kit. And that needs to be directly integrated or embedded during the manufacturing process. So it needs to be factory installed. I know that some companies have what's you can screw in or field installables, and those are not eligible for these upgraded incentives. Additionally, I want to remind everybody that the system that you're using needs to be listed on DLC's network lighting controls QPL. I know most of them have fancy names, Alio Blue, Smart Loop, things like that. So just make sure they're listed on that QPL to qualify. And then additionally, we wanted to remind everybody that the customer or the installer needs to at least have some information about how to commission those properly. So we want to make sure that they're actually enabled once the customer installs them. The reason is because we have increased savings values, the kilowatt hours saved for those fixtures, and if they're there but they're not actually on, then we're not actually recognizing those savings. So just wanted to issue those couple reminders. Next slide, please. Um, Additionally, we want to remind everyone that as of Monday, with these changes, Program Partner Central will only accept DLC 5.1 products from here on out. We were accepting 5.0 with a grace period starting when they introduced 5.1, but now we are closing that off, and 5.1 will be available. Only 5.1 will be available starting on Monday. If you have any questions about that or need to be validated, of course, you can email us, midstreamlighting@newtrust.org. Also, as a reminder, we do have 5 foot and 6 foot linear TLED measures, but those are not a DLC category. The DLC recognizes. So if you have those and need those entered, feel free to email us. As always, DLC can be Program Partner Central and DLC can have a bit of a disconnect. So if you feel like your product qualifies and it's not going through, feel free to email us and we will look into it and help you there. I'll hand it back to Cameron.
Okay, so 90-day installation time frame. I think we'll hit on this a few times. So really the program requires that the incentivized purchases have to be installed within 90 days of delivery. Um, I think critically, both the purchaser and the end use customer has to be notified of this requirement. So for those customers that are doing self-installs, the customer needs to know this, but if it's going to be installed by a contractor, um, the contractor will need to know that and also to talk about that with the customer, and the contractor has to be aware of that time frame. If that product is during our verifications process, which we'll touch on a little later, if the product is found that it's not installed after 90 days, we might require a return of that product. So really, please reach out to us. If you believe a project may not be installed within 90 days, please reach out to us. There are a couple ways that we could go about that. If it's a particularly large site, that could be maybe a phased ordering process where the installer or the customer um, gets upgraded in bits and pieces and is able to meet that requirement. And yeah, there are a few ways that we could work to hit that 90 days. But yeah, please communicate with us, let us know, because yeah, we are ramping up our verifications, and this is definitely a key thing that we want to make sure is happening. All right, let's talk about incentives. So I believe most everybody here has had an opportunity to see these on the schedules that were sent out earlier in the month. So I'll just briefly go through them. So right here, so the pin-based CFLs, that hasn't changed. So they're still $3 this year over last year. Our HID replacements are all increasing. So from $10 for the lower wattages, we're doubling these kind of mid ranges, and then the higher wattages as well. Those are $100. So seeing some really nice increases there.
Just going back to the
Yep.
HIDs as well, if you could note that the wattage ranges are going to be slightly different from last year. So there are, I think last year there were 6 rate ranges that were smaller wattage bands, but now we have 41 to 100 and then 101 to 160 as our mid-range. So just be aware of that that change in terms of the name and the wattage range.
Yep. Thank you, Thomas. Moving on to TLEDs. So TLEDs are mostly staying the same with the exception of the 4-foot. So 4-foot is dropping by 50 cents. This is just due to savings calculations and cost effectiveness. So really generally the same, but a 50-cent drop per tube on the 4-foots. So interior fixtures, those are also going up across the board. With controls, they're staying the same. The exception of 25 watt or less don't have controls, so that's not applicable. But yeah, if you're ordering them with controls, those are staying the same. The base products without the controls are all rising at $5 to $10. High and low bays, so also largely staying the same over last year with 2 drops. I believe it's a drop of $5 to $10 off the top of my head on the integrated controls for the 40 to 90 watt band and the 141 to 299 watt band, but also largely staying the same there. Exterior fixtures, a little mixture here of staying the same, but also increasing. So exterior canisters and then the lower wattage fixtures are all getting bumps. And then the rest of the higher wattages are staying the same on those. And that includes the integrated controls as well. Okay. All right, so I will now pass it to Spencer, talk about some best practices and some issues you might encounter.
Awesome. Thanks, Cameron. Before I get started, I did kind of just want to bump the insider thing. It's a really useful sort of thing that gets sent out every so often. I strongly recommend all of you signing up for it. Saves a lot of questions, but I love answering questions, so don't worry about that. Cool. So let's just jump right in. If you guys do have any issues with validating an address, of course, reach out to the Midstream Lighting at energytrust.org. And if you want, you can CC me on that email because I might be able to answer the question slightly faster. But yeah, any questions, please reach out. More than happy to help with that. As most of you know by now, the program Partner Central customer validation will validate any entity that is PGE or Pacific Power. So if you were to type the address from my house in, you would get a green confirmation code. So it requires distributors to do a little bit more research than just relying on the green confirmation code, because residential addresses don't qualify for this program unless they have agricultural land at that address, or they have a shop in the backyard that, you know, you make canoes in. That totally counts. So yeah, this program, as most of you know, does require a little bit more research than just relying on what's populated on PPC. Another great best practice, just to save some time, is put the suite number in there. On the back end side of things, when we're confirming addresses and validations, if there's no suite number, it just takes up a little bit more time to make sure that everything's in line and good to go. Thomas, go for it.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that I'm sure many of you have gotten emails from me or Sarah asking about suite numbers. In our, we need to put the exact suite number in with the address, and some of the time we can do some research and figure that out on our own, but sometimes we can't, and so that can sometimes lead to payment delays if we're unable to get that information from you before we need to submit the project to Entity Trust to be paid. So it's just good practice to keep putting those in there so that we don't have to reach out and ask for that if we don't need to.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Thomas. Next slide, please. If a customer comes in and they swear that they're PGE or Pack Power, but the PPC website is not validating the address, a good sort of troubleshooting thing to do before you reach out to us is to go to the Oregon.gov website, find your utilities. I always just search Find Your Utilities Oregon, and it takes me right to this website. This is a great way to just double check that they are, in fact, a Energy Trust of Oregon territory customer. Next slide, please. So, if this is, if you type it in and it shows that it's a PGE customer, but you have an error, there's a chance that the reason you're not able to confirm the address is because it is very close to a utility border. If it borders PGE with a Pack Power territory, that's not a huge deal. I think we can just go ahead with that. Thomas, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, you just reach out to us and we'll double check it. And if it's Pack Power and PGE border, that's fine. But if it borders another utility, we will require you to send a copy or a picture of the end user's utility bill. I realize that this is probably more steps than most people would want to go through, but it is necessary just to triple check and make sure that the incentives are going to the Energy Trust territory customer. Thomas.
Yeah, I would say the reason why we require this is because we actually did have an incident where we confirmed a site that was close to a border, and it turned out that this map was not correct and that it was on a different utility. On a wrong utility is one thing that there's absolutely no room for error. There's no exceptions on that. If it's not PG or Pacific Power, we have to we can't issue incentives. There's no exceptions. So we just want to be really careful about that because yeah, that's a hard rule from Energy Trust, and we don't want to tell you that it's okay, only to find out later that it's not. That would be unfortunate both for you and for us. So we just want to take those extra measures.
Awesome. Yeah. And I just want to double down that this is not required with every customer. So if a customer comes in, you don't need to just immediately off the bat ask them for a utility bill. It only happens in these very sort of unique niche events. Okay, next slide. Thomas, are you taking over now, or am I still going?
I can take this. In terms of product validation, I've been talking with a few of you, and just want to let you know that basically as of April 1, as of Monday, with these new incentives, we are starting our product list in our system with a completely clean slate. So that's because of the update from 5.0 to 5.1. So anything that has been validated in the past, you'll need to revalidate again. Of course, it's good practice to validate every time you make a sale anyway, but products that that you validated before are not in the system anymore as of April 1. So just be aware of that for new sales. You need to revalidate any old sales. If you're still submitting sales from March, that's fine to, those are still in there from the March 31st and previous, but anything moving forward is going to be completely fresh. So just make sure you're validating those as you make your sales. Next slide, please. In terms of the sales upload template, we will be issuing a fresh upload template for the new year. This will look almost exactly the same as the old one, so no changes there. Please use a fresh template for each sale. Just because if there is anything that's going on in that tool, if it gets corrupted or if anything changes, it can interfere with new sales. So it's always best practice to use a new one each time. And please don't change the cell formatting in the form so that sometimes our system can be a little bit finicky and can cause errors, so we don't want any of those to change. Brad, I see a question. T5 validation's been updated. No, so anything you've sent email to us for is also not going to be in there anymore. So if you are going to be planning on selling those, even if you've emailed us before, please do so again. We may be able to enter some of those, but we haven't moved anything over yet. And so, yeah, just a good practice to check for 5 and 6 months. In terms of the customer installation address, Spencer already went over this a little bit, but PPC validates PGE or Pacific Power. Make sure when you are asking your customers about where they're going to install that this is the actual installation address and not a billing address, not a main warehouse, making sure that everything that they plan to install is the address that you give. We do verifications for this, and so if we find it split up among different sites, we may have to get that information later. And then in terms of purchaser contact information, please remove the hyperlinks from any emails or phone numbers that can interfere with the system. And then if no email is provided, you can just leave that cell blank. Next slide. The one small change to this year's sales template is that columns B, C, and D that have monetary values are just going to be number values at this point. You can see on the left-hand side, there's no dollar sign. That's intentional. So please don't change the formatting or add anything, especially that currency format. It really messes with our system. And sometimes you'll see if you go to the upload status tab that something's been uploaded several times, and that's actually us trying to get it to upload correctly if there's any issues. So just make sure that formatting stays the same as what we've put in there. And then lastly, recently we've seen a couple of uploads with blank rows at the top in row 2. If you can make sure to delete those before any blank rows before you submit, that would be appreciated. And then Spencer, I see you have a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, especially for the partners who have just joined this program, I would say that the only cell you can change is the confirmation number cell, because it would delete the first 3 zeros. That's been taken care of, so you shouldn't need to adjust that anymore. Just paste it and those zeros will stay there.
Thanks. Yeah, if you have any questions or any issues with the form, just let us know. We'll be able to help. But yeah, that formatting, especially on those monetary columns, is a little bit tricky, and so we've just changed it to be straight numbers. And if you can leave that as is, we would appreciate it. And I will pass it back to Spencer. Tips.
Awesome. If we, this sort of whole section is a lot of sort of how to troubleshoot on your own. One of the things that even I forget sometimes is that you will unfortunately need to wait 24 hours between the first time you validate an address and when you use that address in a sales data upload. It's just about how the system refreshes over time. We've tried to look into sort of making it quicker, but it hasn't happened yet. Another thing is if you have multiple sales uploads, I strongly recommend putting them all on one. I realized that early on in the sort of in your, experience, you might do one sales upload per sale just to make sure you don't make any mistakes. We strongly recommend that you just combine them all. It's much faster for us to deal with when we're processing it and cutting checks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, if you upload a file and then something changes from that file, don't change it and then upload essentially the exact same file with this minor change. Reach out to me and Midstream Lighting and EnergyTrust.org with any changes, and we can help with that. And also on Program Partner Central, there is a section under resources that shows you how to deal with these things. Thomas.
Yeah, I was just going to say any minor edits for the most part, if you let us know what they are specifically, we can change them in our system on the back end. And then we may re-upload it. We can do that for you. Yeah, any changes like that, just let us know. We'll help you deal with that. And we may have you re-upload it, but it depends on what the change is.
See how we feel that day. Just kidding. Next slide, please. Oh, yes. This one. This is the serious one. Everyone needs to pay attention for this one. So obviously, as most of you know, I think everyone knows this, new constructions, building addition, and any major renovations are not eligible for instant discount. The major renovation one, I think is pretty self-explanatory, but there are some that sort of skirt the lines. If you have any questions about whether something qualifies or not because of this, reach out to me. I'll get back to you within 30 minutes and let you know if you're good to go. So it won't delay your project as much as selling lights to someone that doesn't qualify will delay your project. So it's definitely worth just taking an hour, 30 minutes to reach out to me and waiting to get the all clear. The installation address absolutely must match the address provided on the sales upload. And this will be verified several times on the back end. And if they don't match, then there's a very strong chance that we will have to initiate returns. And just to sort of go into the return thing isn't a huge deal, but it probably doesn't make you look very good to your customers. So, I just strongly recommend just making sure that all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed. We talked about the 90-day thing earlier, but I want to triple down on this. Everyone involved in an instant discount sale must know about the 90 days. Whether it's the contractor has to know, the end user has to know, everyone has to know, because when we start doing the verification for your projects, the first thing we ask is if it's installed, and if they say no, the next question we ask is, did you know about the 90-day thing? Now we are seeing, especially some of the older projects that the 90-day requirement was not disseminated as much as it should have been. And like we said earlier, if it's past the 90 days, then we can initiate a return. But again, if we know ahead of time that it's not going to happen within 90 days, then we can take steps to mitigate that. But also, if a laundromat or a warehouse that is only 2 employees, they're not going to install 1,000 lights in 90 days. So strongly recommend phasing large sales for self-installs. Again, we can't have people just stocking items, buying 1,000 lights and just holding on to them and then gradually installing them when their old lights die. That's not what the program's about. The program's about taking KWHs off the grid as fast as possible and making sure that these lights are installed in ETO territory. So that's why we have the 90-day thing. That's why customers can't stock these products. And if we find that they have been, then again, we'll just have to initiate a return. I think that's me. I think that's everything. Next slide. But I'm out.
All right. Thanks, Spencer. All right, so some budget reminders. So kind of a theme this year. Budget is going to be tracked pretty closely. I know last year we were able to do a lot of increases. That really might not be the case this year. It's going to be a little tighter. So this is just a reminder. You're really responsible for tracking your budget. And if you submit projects that exceed what you're allocated, they're really not guaranteed to be paid out. Just a couple maybe tips. If your budget is running low, you have a few options. You could be selective on what projects you submit, just to kind of partition the remaining budget throughout the rest of the year. And of course, if budget is running low, you can please request a budget increase. Please do that ahead of time, before you submit a project that would put you over the budget. And then you can also consider downstream as an option. If midstream budget's a little low, perhaps downstream could be a good option there. And so about the budget increase, those are really evaluated on a case-by-case basis, really looking at how much budget we have left, what is potentially in the pipeline. So if you're requesting increase, please include a specific dollar amount. And along with that, some reasons why, maybe you have a big project that you're closing, which is the reason for this increase. So yeah, please be as specific as you can. And if an increase is approved, the amount approved might differ from the requested amount. So it might be an increase, but it might not be exactly what you need, and or what you specifically requested. And again, that could be due to a lot of different factors, but a lot of it's just budget management from the program perspective. And another point here, the pre-authorization form. So I know we get a lot of these. So pre-authorization forms really, they're not an incentive reservation. So even if a pre-authorization request is approved and we say, yep, this project is good, you could go forward, it doesn't actually guarantee the incentive payout if this project exceeds the budget allocation. So please keep that in mind. Again, going back to kind of the budget management, please don't submit projects that are going to exceed your budget. Please take a look at that and let us know if you need an increase, and we can review that. Spencer.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we are in the process of putting together monthly budget updates for all of our partners. We haven't figured out how we're going to do it yet, but hopefully by next month or the month after, you will be getting monthly updates to where your budget is and what you've used so far. Of course, don't rely blindly on these emails. It is still very important that you look after your own budget, but we are going to try and make it easier to do that.
That's right. Thank you, Spencer. Okay, and some reminders, some final reminders here. So PPC down dates, it's currently down and will be so until April 1st at 8:30, when we expect that to come online again. So as we were talking about earlier, please validate all of the products that you sold prior to April 1st. If they are 5.0 products and they haven't been validated yet, please do so. Obviously, PPC is down now. So really, if you have a project sold before April 1st and those products haven't been validated yet, it's likely those are going to require some manual entry. And so please contact us, and we'll set that on the right path. And really, the biggest reminder here, and I want to, just kind of an alert here, and I recognize this might be a bit unsavory, but we just have to do this. So please, for all sales submissions that are occurring after April 1st, please hold on those sales submissions until May 1st. We have to do a lot of system updates on our end. And so really that's going to affect how we can process these submissions. So please hold all of those. If you do submit a project, say that has some sales pre-April 1st and then sales after April 1st, if they're combined into a single submission, we can process the ones that are sold before April 1st, but we'll send those the ones on April 1st and after back to you and say, please hold on this until May 1st. Of course, the big impact here, and we're going to do everything that we can to speed this along, but this is going to affect our payment processing, right? And so we're cognizant of that. We are going to work on this as quickly as possible, but really, really hold on these until April 1st. That being said, you can continue to validate products and customers in PPC during this time frame. This is solely due to, or this is solely attributed to the sales upload in that spreadsheet. So with that, any questions we can feel? I see there have been some in the chat. And I did respond to one in the chat about the slides. So, yep, these slides will be available for reference after this. So keep a lookout for that.
We can also make this recording available as well for
Yes.
any staff members or folks who missed it.
Yes. So yeah, please, any questions, type them out. Take your, probably will be, you can take yourself off mute, I think, and raise your hand or yeah.
I want to make sure I understand you right. Any sales in April, the whole month, you're asking us to submit it after May 1st.
Yes, that is correct.
Because some of us, that's a lot of money we're hanging out there.
It is
waiting for to be reimbursed.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, we really recognize that financial pressure. There really is not much that we can do because this is really a systems update issue, and so we're going to work as fast as we can to get this done. But as it stands, yeah, those sales submissions through the month of April, hold those until May 1st.
Did you have this problem last year when the program changed and we just didn't hear about it?
No, this did not happen last year. We've just had some difficulties getting this program launched, and so yeah, again, we recognize that it's an unfortunate update that we had to give, but like Cameron mentioned, it's there's not a lot we can do because of our systems aren't fully updated and live. we're not able to process anything. And so we'll keep you updated as to this requirement, and we'll work as fast as we can. But yeah, this is just a temporary situation, and we will keep you all updated as we learn more. I see a question from Brad in the chat. Promotional material be available to customers. That will be on Monday as well. So we will send out an email Monday morning, probably by like 10 or so. I will add a new sales template, pre-authorization form, marketing materials. All of that will be available for you on Monday morning. Stairwell fixtures. That's a good question. So the DLC category, I believe it is called slash passageway, is not eligible for incentives. And so that DLC listing will not validate if that product is exterior and is being used in an exterior application. You can use that DLC listing, but it does need to be that application to qualify. And if it will validate, then it should be good there. I think we're good. If you have questions after this, feel free to email Spencer, email me, email Midstream Lighting. Any one of those, we will, we monitor those. So, yeah, Cameron, Spencer, any last items to add?
Just that I recognize Spencer's email isn't on here. I hope everybody. Oh, and I just saw another question from Brad come in. Address that real quick. Just want to make sure everyone has Spencer's email address as well. Spencer, maybe pop that in the chat. Okay. All right. So we had another question from Brad. If a strip fixture has a low bay DLC rating, can we offer that exclusively or a case by case basis compared to the interior use?
That's a good question. So DLC, if it's listed, if it's dual listed, interior or low bay, you should really be validating and using the one that using the application the customer is going to actually be using. So I know that some 2x4 fixtures are listed as a low bay, but if they're being installed in an office as a traffic fixture, then they should be getting the interior incentive. If they are using it as a low bay, then they can get the low bay incentive. But yeah, the DLC application should guide you in terms of which incentive the customer gets for that particular product. And that's to ensure our savings integrity, because we have a deemed savings value, meaning there's an expectation if you submit a low bay to us, then we're saving X amount of kilowatt hours. And if you submit a low bay for an interior application, that gets a little bit fuzzy.
Okay. All right, I'll pause since that one came in as we were wrapping up. I'll pause maybe another 30 seconds, a minute. If any of these questions have rattled something else in people's heads. And
Yeah, Randy. So when you validate the address on your website, it abbreviates the street. But yet on our submissions, they have to spell it out. Why is that? Why don't you spell it out on the website?
I'm not sure that it needs to be spelled out in your submissions. I think Jocelyn's our former market outreach manager, may have added that requirement, but that's not necessarily required on your sales submissions. So if it's easier for you to abbreviate it, that will work fine for us.
Okay. Yeah, because the employees writing the orders have been copying and pasting the address, and then they have to either spell it out or I try to catch it when I submit it. Based on that information, that was probably Jocelyn then. Okay.
Yeah, that was when we originally introduced the program a few years ago. That's not a requirement anymore. So yeah, if that's a burden on your folks, feel free to just put it in as listed.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Randy. Hopefully that helped some other people as well. Sarah, I saw you raised your hand. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on that?
I was just going to say the shorthand is actually preferred while I'm processing. So feel bad that they've had to go in and spell out everything because I have to go in and shorten it all to look it up. So yeah, no, shorthand would definitely speed things along for your associates and for me, definitely.
Sorry, that's too funny that we're doing it one way and then you have to reverse it. We're creating work for you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
No, that's great. I'm glad this was able to get cleared up. Easier for everybody. Okay. Well, with that, if anyone thinks of questions, please, yeah, email the address here, Midstream Lighting, or Spencer, both probably. And yeah, we can get to those. And otherwise, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, excited for this coming year. I think it's going to be a big year, and yeah, appreciate you all. And yeah, hope everyone has a good day and rest of their week. Take care, all.
Thanks, everyone.
You all.
Thank you.